How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We're here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sunday, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. Friday here on this program, and we have got a lot to talk about here today because we were not here yesterday. Had a bunch of things that came up. I actually had an appointment yesterday, and so Mike was going to do the show, and then you'll never guess what happened. His computer went all to hell. But I think we're both here today. I know I am. And so we got to catch up on yesterday. We didn't do a Dynamite review. We have the finals set up for next week for the AEW Championship. We can go over all of the results from that show here today. And we kind of, sort of, a little bit have an update on the AEW investigation. But not much of an update. But I'm being honest with you. Not clickbaiting here. I'll tell you what I know after the break. We've also got a Much Ado About Nothing AEW show, which somehow got a lot of traction. We've got Dynamite ratings from Wednesday's show, did a great number. Tony Khan talking about the relationship between AEW and Warner Brothers. We've got Logan Paul appearing on SmackDown tonight, some notes from The Observer. And speaking of The Observer himself, Big Dave Meltzer, is going to be on the show today, talking about all of the top stories from the latest Observer. So if you've got questions, you can certainly ask them on the chats, twitch.tv/F4W video, as well as video.f4wonline.com, which is our YouTube page. And if you're listening on YouTube right now, I know I've said a lot of things about the YouTube subscribers, or not the subscribers, the freeloaders. And I take it all back. If you are a freeloader, and you can click that subscribe button. We're 8,000 away from 100,000 subscribers. Damn it, I want that plaque. So hit that subscribe button, everybody. I appreciate it. Back in a moment with more Wrestling Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. And yes, it appears that Mike Sempervive is here today.
I am. Did you miss me?
No, I didn't do the show yesterday.
No.
And if I had,
miss me in general?
If I had, who knows? Depends on how the show would have gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And yes, we've been working on the levels in between segments here. The commercials, we had some complaints that the levels were all out of whack. And we're working on that. We're going to get it fixed. And by the way, you know who was the first to hear about that?
Who?
My super followers on Twitter. Oh, you heard me right. You can now super follow me on Twitter. Not just follow me, super follow me. It's essentially, yes, a paid Twitter. But man, if you're a super follower for a low fee, it's a whole different experience. You guys have seen my free timeline. Well, some of you, if you enjoy following me on Twitter, might want to give that super follow a shot. You'll have a lot of exclusive tweets, some news. I answer pretty much everybody's questions on there, Q&As. It's a far, far better experience than my free timeline. And I very much appreciate everybody that is super followed already. I will make it worth your while. Much like I make it worth everyone's while when I do cameos at 4W Online. All right, you sick of all that crap? Let's talk about some news. Now, I want to make this abundantly clear. This is not like a confirmed story or anything like that. And I usually don't like rumors and just spreading rumors. But I just want to at least say this, okay? I want to at least say this. This is not just something I heard from one random bloke, okay? I heard this today, I asked around, and it's definitely something that is being discussed, okay? That doesn't mean that this is going to turn out to be exactly how it is, but I heard this morning that many people have heard that there is a possibility that we're going to hear something about these suspensions today. And there's only a few people still under suspension. That would be CM Punk, Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, obviously Ace Steel, and we've been waiting. And a couple of days ago, they took several people off suspension, but we were still waiting to hear about everybody else. And I can't say like 100%, but from talking to people, I believe that those people who are under suspension right now, all of them to this day have heard nothing. Nobody's contacted them. Nobody's said anything. Absolute deathly radio silence. But people in AW have I shouldn't say all of them, but I've heard from people that have heard the rumor that today might be the day that we find out what's going on. And a lot of people would be very happy if today was the day that we found out what's going on. Because a lot of people don't have any idea what's going on. So it's, what is it, 3 Eastern, noon Pacific? We'll find out if those rumors are true. But I do believe, whether it happens today or not, the fact that they've already made moves to take some people off suspension, whether it's today or not, I do feel that we're probably closing in on the end of this. I don't have all of the details, but there was an internal investigation within AEW sometime in the last year. And I'll just put it this way. When I was told who it was, I had absolutely no idea who this person is, okay? So, but the point is, there was an internal investigation, and it went on for months. So I think that's why, everybody was taken off. They're advertising for the next pay-per-view. The Young Bucks are not advertised for the next pay-per-view. Obviously, they're not going to advertise Punk because whatever happens, even if everyone's cleared, you're all welcome to come back. He can't come back for 8-10 months anyway. But I think that's why, Bucks were stripped of the titles, Bucks and Kenny, not on any they have no idea how long this could go. But I do kind of have this feeling that we're nearing the end here. So we shall see. Let's get this show on the road, right? Right. Thank you, Mike.
Do I have to give you a super follow
nope.
to answer? Okay.
Yeah, but if you know what? If you give me a super follow, I may answer your question. What do you think about that? And there's another story, by the way. I just got to get this out because there have been a lot of stories of late, and they're all much ado about nothing. But man, for whatever reason, they just blow up. And the latest one was Kenny Omega told the AEW roster that I wouldn't have hired 80% of you. Guys, hear this story? Listen. I didn't have all the details, but the day that this meeting occurred, and the next day here on this show, what did I tell everybody? I said, well, there were a bunch of people that spoke, and when the meeting was over, there were a few people, and I'm talking a few, that were, not thrilled. But the vast majority of the folks that came out of this meeting felt a lot better about everything. That's what I told you. And it's not just me. Other people had the same report. So then it comes out a few days ago. Kenny said I wouldn't have hired. Okay. That just doesn't even make any sense. These stories don't even match up. Kenny did make a comment, but the comment was directed at Will Ospreay. And Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega are feuding. They've been going back and forth on Twitter. And it was a tongue-in-cheek comment. He was joking. And, maybe there were a couple of people that didn't get the joke in the room, okay? But this is much ado about nothing. Kenny did not go in there. He did not bury the roster. Everybody wasn't mad about it. He made a joke, and the vast majority of people walking out that room felt better than they did before the meeting. So I don't know where this blew up at. Dave wrote in the Observer the same thing. It's not true. But it's like one thing after another is in the aftermath of this press conference disaster.
I'm not even really going to justify it other than to point out there's a reason that it took this long for this story to grow legs and then become the creature that it became. Either somebody willingly decided to look at his sarcasm pointed towards Will Ospreay and then pass that on because they were salty, or something got lost in the translation from someone hearing about that because someone's salty. That's it. And there's a reason that it's been a non-issue until a couple of days ago, and the fact that it's blown up is, like we talked about the last show we were on, people are now looking and crawling and scratching for anything to keep the story going in their minds and to keep conversation and debate going and for them to choose their sides. I mean, just sit back. The investigation is going to come out whenever it's over. People are going to be off suspension. We will hear more about it at that point. But right now, this is all fanfic. It's turned into fanfic. It turned into fanfic that night. And everything has just kind of grown legs.
Do I have to explain this again in the chat? No, this is not Kenny Omega being mean and pretending it's a joke, okay?
Jesus Christ.
Him and Will Ospreay are friends. They are going to have matches together. They're building. It's fake. It's phony. They're building up a storyline, and they were joking during a meeting. Since when was wrestling real? Have I missed something? Okay, I got to move on, or I'm going to lose my mind. Dynamite, Wednesday, 1.2 million viewers, up 13.5% from last week. Best viewership since September 22nd of last year. 18 to 49, a .39, which was up 2.6%. Best rating in the category since June 1st. Ratings were up in every single demo. The whole show, there was nothing, not one quarter on the show, dipped below 1 million. It was basically actually 1.2 million across the board, except the women in the death spot did about 1 million. But they didn't dip below 1 million. And it was just, not big lead-in fall throughout the show. Not only caring about the two title matches, or the title tournament matches. It was 1.2 million people wanted to watch pretty much the whole damn show. And they did from start to finish. So, very, very good number. And year over year, first year they have not had a decline in total viewership. Although they are down in 18 to 49, which is a story. But we'll be back in a moment with Dave. Talk to him about some of this stuff. Observer Live.
When it's him in there, it's like, well, I don't have to be the one wrestling him, but it just opens my eyes to, like, you know what I mean? Like, new levels of talent But there's been a lot of people sort of on our journey in the UK that have given us a lot of guidance. I learned a lot from people like Walter and Pete Dunn, as well as people like Zack Sabre Jr. And it's just through like wrestling them and traveling with them and stuff that you get to, you know what I mean? Like you get like a deeper appreciation of how some people view wrestling, and it just...
very well known that one of my favorite wrestlers of all time is Jushin Liger. I think I look at him and I think about how he's not tied to one certain promotion, not one certain championship. He's kind of gone and done it all, and I think that's why he's such like a superstar in the world of wrestling. And I think I've really tried to emulate that in my own career and want to emulate that in my own career. So that's someone I think I'd like to shout out.
What has the experience been like for you guys to get an opportunity to wrestle? You know, you guys done stuff on AEW Rampage, on AEW Dynamite. What has that been like for you guys?
It's been a great, first of all, learning experience. Like it's such a different environment to anywhere we've ever wrestled before. So I think we've learned a lot from being there. And then also it's the most people we've ever wrestled in front of, both, you know what I mean? Like on a national, international stage. So it's, I think for us, getting that chance was we were so ready for it, you know what I mean? Like we were waiting so long for a chance like that, so we just went out there and we gave it everything. And I think the response from the fans really showed, and that's just made us even more hungry to get back there and do the same thing again. Like the amount of different people that you have to talk to backstage about what's happening on the show and your spot on the show and where you need to be for like different camera shots and where the cameras are, and like the amount of detail they went in with that sort of stuff. I just think it's the most detail to the production side of stuff that we've ever had to go through, I think.
Mark, how did you feel, you know, kind of being in that sort of environment?
I enjoyed it very, very much. It was very high stress for quite a big part of it. I guess the first day that we showed up, and can I say that it just came about with, I think around maybe like 4 days notice, I think we got to be like, we need you to roll up to AEW and beat up Trent. So it all happened very, very quickly. And even when we got there, things happened really quickly. The FTR match came about on the day. So we were all just like, it was all happening as we were there. And I think like being thrown into that like blender and it all happening so quickly, just kind of like, I don't know, just made us acclimated to it even quicker, because that first experience felt so like sort of tumultuous. But I enjoyed it. I loved it. I really, really had a lot of fun.
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Dave Meltzer is joining us. And Dave, not in the Observer. Actually, it might be in the Observer. I haven't read the entire Observer yet. But the story that potentially NBC, Universal, and Warner could do
that one's not in the Observer.
This could a potential merger of the home of Raw and the home of Dynamite. Well, wonders never cease. Of course that happens in 2022.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to, I know the stories just broke today, and we'll have to wait and see, you know. Obviously, there's talk. These stories don't break without talk. I mean, it would take governmental approval, which I would hope was not a rubber stamp, because this is a pretty, this consolidation of media is a very scary story, really, because it cuts down on options and things like that, and the ramifications of that one, I mean, far, far, far bigger than wrestling, but they obviously would be there for wrestling as well, yes.
And for anybody that just heard this and is immediately now freaking out about it, negotiations on this could not happen until the spring of 2024 because of the way that Warner Brothers and Discovery just merged. So it would not be right away, but it is something that a lot of people, judging from this Hollywood Reporter article, are thinking that it's a fait accompli, that this is at some point going to happen.
Yeah, it's a gigantic news story, more than just in wrestling, yeah.
All right, so the New Observer, I mean, obviously talk about fallout from the press conference, and it's been quiet the last couple of days, but, I I don't know about you, but I've kind of heard and sort of have the feeling that we may be wrapping this up soon.
Well, I mean, you would think it should be wrapped up very soon, and as far as the future direction of AEW and things like that, and what changes or non-changes are going to be made, you would think that that's all going to be coming out in the next, week or two, and what they are. I mean, we'll have to find out, and what the end story is. A lot of people have been waiting for that one.
What do you make of this rating for AEW this Wednesday?
It was a big rating. This is probably a lot of factors. It was not. It was very, very big in over 50, so it's kind of like the viewer number. I mean, it's the biggest number they've ever had on TBS, so it's a great number. And the 1849 number was a very, very strong number, and it was first, as they've been most weeks for the last couple of months. So it's a great number, but. Yeah, I mean, why they would have more over 50 viewers this week? There was less competition for men than usual, and people are starting to, and TV viewing is going up because it's not the summer. But also, I mean, more than anything else, the product is the big part of it. So there's curiosity in the product. I mean, the thing is, they didn't open any larger than usual. They opened.
No, it was very stable the entire way.
Yeah, they opened at the same level that they usually open, so it's not like a whole bunch of new. What happened was the people who are watching, usually people watching the show, AEW, will watch an average about 70 minutes of the show, which is actually a good percentage compared to a lot of TV shows. And obviously with this one, they probably watched a lot longer. It's been a long, long time since the peak in 1849s was the main event segment. A lot of credit would go to Jericho and Danielson, that people wanted to see that match. And also the tag team title match did surprisingly well, which was, Swerve and Keith Lee against Phoenix and Pentagon. So those were the keys. The keys was maintaining the audience throughout the show and what they did to do it. And those were the key factors in doing it. So, Danielson and Jericho was bigger than I think a lot of people anticipated. I mean, it bodes well for this week coming up because they have a really loaded show. So, but it was also, again, like ESPN had women's college basketball on. So it's like the competition for men, AEW dominated with men viewers and even beat, the second hour of AEW, the 9 to 10 hour, was second on all of television. There was one show, I believe it was on NBC, that beat it. It beat, all the other networks. So, I mean, it's people are watching, it's a great feather in their cap, so that's the story.
Yeah, I had predicted that this show was going to do 6 straight weeks of 1 million plus as a result of just the fallout, people curious, and then there were going to be tournaments for a vacant title, and then the champion was going to be crowned, and then the fallout to the champion being crowned. And we're at 4 or 5 now. I forget what number we're at now. Four.
We're at 4 straight weeks.
But this was higher than I expected this week.
It was higher than everyone expected.
I have a question because somebody asked, and it might have been the mailbag, but what was Raw's 50+ decline?
Raw's 50+ decline. I could actually look that up. It would take all of a few seconds.
Well, as you're doing that, I will say that they basically stated that, there's a lot of wrestling on television every week, and
people aren't going to devote as many hours, and people who may have watched football on Monday.
Yeah, that's the theory that some of those viewers, because Raw had a big drop against football and whatever else.
The over 50 drop, it was around. I have it right here. It was down 11% from the week before.
And is that larger than usual, or?
Well, I mean, it did a 0.89, and it's been doing in the it's lower than it's been doing. Yeah, because of the NFL.
So I think that one of the main reasons the show did over 1 million was you had two semifinal tournament matches. It was a good show. You had a tag title match. Obviously, people were interested in Danielson and in Jericho, but. I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that some people chose not to watch Raw this week to watch football, and having not already seen 3 hours of wrestling, they decided to watch some more wrestling on Wednesday.
I think there's something to that. I mean, I don't think that's the major reason.
I don't think it's the major reason, but I think that might have been a portion of this,
which
could bode well throughout football season if there are fans that on certain weeks decide they're going to watch football instead of wrestling, and then decide to watch Dynamite on Wednesday.
Well, if that's the case, then NXT is going to be a big beneficiary of this too.
Well,
because
NXT
they
was
were
up
down,
too.
Yeah, they were down in almost all demos, but they were up 10.5% in people over 50.
Yeah, NXT was up in over 50 by a good margin. Yeah.
Well, speaking of NXT, we're moving back. They're getting rid of all the colors, and Ryan Katz is back. Started back on Monday, and it looks like they're going to try to do something resembling the prior NXT regime. And
the person who's in charge of the company was the person who was in charge of the prior NXT regime, so that's his brainchild of what it should be. So I'm sure it's going to revert more closely to what was done before he got his power taken away. So yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of obvious.
Now there were kind of two periods of NXT Black and Gold. There was the earlier period, which was very, very hot. And then once the Wednesday Night Wars kicked off, there was a second period which was not quite as hot. And one of the differences, besides the competition and et cetera, is you had a 1 hour show versus a 2 hour show.
Yep.
And now it's going to be a 2 hour show every week. And obviously, great talent is going to go up to the main roster and do whatever they were doing in NXT and not getting different gimmicks or being lost in the shuffle or whatever. Although a certain amount of talent, you are going to get lost in the shuffle. But how closely do you think this revamped NXT can get to the glory days of NXT, or has that ship fully sailed?
Well, nothing's ever fully sailed. In the end of the day, if the right person comes along, this is star-driven business. If the right star comes along, anything is possible. Without that, you're you'll probably be at the level that you're at. I don't think anything's going to remarkably change unless something clicks. Somebody clicks. You could have some good weeks here and there. When you build up like a major show, but as a general direction, it's going to be where they are unless something clicks. And for NXT, it's harder now because it used to be years ago you had these guys that would get hot in Ring of Honor and perhaps even Impact. And then WWE would get them and put them in NXT, and they were established names. And so that was part of the formula. And I suppose that could still happen, but it's not happening as frequently. There is no ROH, so that's not going to happen. But with it'd be Impact is really the only one that would be at that level. And, a lot of the guys in Impact are not guys. They've either been through WWE or and wouldn't be a big deal going back, or in some cases, if WWE really wanted them, they would have them, and clearly, they don't. So it would. I guess the idea is it takes somebody super hot that's new in Impact, and then going to NXT and also getting hot. That would be the kind of a thing, or somebody just on the independent scene that's really good. The problem with on the independent scenes, we see people right away, so we're going to know who they are. So it's not like Braun Breaker is the exception to the rule of a guy who walked in and became somebody. I don't think we're going to be seeing guys like that very often.
One other quick note, then we got to wrap up this segment. Ricky Steamboat is returning to the ring.
Shocked me, especially since
he wasn't there for that Flair retirement.
He wouldn't do the Flair retirement. He'd had major health issues. I guess he's fine now, but he had years of problems. I remember he and I talking about it on more than one occasion. And that was, and he's 69 years old. And again, if he was going to do something, I would think the Flair thing would be the one you would want to do. But maybe he felt if he's working with somebody younger that it would be better. I don't know. I was stunned. He was a guy who, let's face it, Ricky Steamboat retired as a wrestler. He did the comeback with WWE, but he retired in 1994. That's a long time ago.
Yes, it is. All right, we got to wrap this up. But Dave, I want to thank you so much. The New Observer, 40,000 words of news and information every week, up right now at WrestlingObserver.com. So check it out. Back in a moment with more Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. We're going to do the Dynamite report here in a moment. And I always live tweet the pay-per-views because I'm watching live. But as a West Coaster, can't really live tweet because I watch them whenever I watch them. But I do think that just for the fun of it, I may tweet my thoughts during all the TV shows to my super followers on Twitter. Won't that be exciting? I got a lot of jokes I can make, but I got to save them for my most loyal Twitter followers, my super followers. By the way, Timothy, who may be a super follower now that I think about it, he says, my theory in this week's Dynamite number is similar to yours, Bryan. I suspect there's a type of fan who watches both WWE and AEW, but is mainly an NFL fan. They watch Monday Night Football over Raw, therefore tuned into Dynamite instead to get their wrestling fix. And his next part is key. And before I read it, I want to explain something. We do these every week. We talk about the ratings, and it happens regularly. There's a big high. Oh, there's a big low. And everybody freaks out, and then, like, next week it's back to normal. And then some people are like, oh, we should only talk about ratings once a month. And, I mean, I guess you could do that, but I don't mind giving you the gist of the ratings every week, but you do have to look for patterns, okay? And, you know, when I saw the football decline, it is only 1 week, but I have concluded early that I think what happened is, if you look at the Raw ratings, and this is a pattern, ever since Triple H took over, the Raw numbers have been a lot higher. And clearly there are people who quit that are giving the show another chance. And so when the Raw rating took that big hit, you know, my conclusion is those are the people that were giving it another shot, but realistically, you know, they're still more casual, and they're watching football. And his point here, which does indicate a pattern, is that Dynamite often does better during the NFL season every year when Raw goes down. And in fact, that is correct. Because if you recall, the closest that Dynamite ever came to beating Raw in 18-49, and they actually did beat them, like, you know, it was like 1 or 2 times or something like that, was during football season. And we have seen this week, it's only this week, but it is, I mean, it's the beginning of a pattern because it happened for both NXT and Dynamite. Raw was down 25%, and NXT got a bump, and Dynamite got a bump. And if this happens again next week, Raw is, you know, whatever they did this week, 1.7 million, but NXT is up, you know, close to where they were this week. And Dynamite has another good week, which they should anyway because of we're going to have to look for patterns beyond, hey, the title's going to be decided. I mean, I think there's a good chance that this is what's going on. People only have so much time to watch wrestling, unless it's your job. And if you're skipping Raw on Mondays for football, NXT or Dynamite, whichever is your preference, that might be your wrestling fix in the middle of the week. So this will be an interesting thing to track.
I don't have any comments on this. I'm going to wait till everybody sends me money on PayPal. That's paypal.com, I think, /Sempervive. Then I'll let you know what I think about this. It's as close as I can get to super followers since I'm still about 300 people short of 10,000.
Wow.
I know.
Hey, what'd you guys think of this Dynamite show? The fans seemed to like it because it was exceedingly stable throughout the show.
Exceedingly stable.
It was.
I've actually been described as that at moments
in
my life. Yes. It's usually after they give me the shot, but yes, I've gone back to being exceedingly stable. But look, it was not, I know the crowd, people kind of jumped on the crowd for being quiet at times. To me, they just didn't have a lot of people there. And I guess there were times where they may have been a little quiet, but I think that maybe have been overdone a little bit. But I think people may have been also been looking to try to pick at that show because I thought it was actually solid throughout.
The other day, Mike, I lost my mind about the black and white, which, by the way, SmackDown tonight. God help me. But anyway, I lost my mind over Karrion Kross sucking the color out of the cameras.
Yes.
And I walked off the show. And I said, Mike, did you watch SmackDown?
Mm-hmm.
You said no. Were you lying or was that the truth?
I was lying.
Okay. Well, anyway, I watched SmackDown for sure. And you know what I noticed?
What's that?
Well, they were in Seattle, and that crowd was, as the kids say, lit.
They were lit, yes.
So after watching that SmackDown in Seattle and watching Dynamite, no, this was not overstated. This crowd was dead, except they did go. This is a WWE crowd. They went crazy for the entrances.
Well, that's true.
They went crazy if you did something totally nuts like Keith Lee's Destroyer, which is one of the greatest spots I ever saw in my life. The more I think about it, I'm just like, wow. And then, they went crazy for the
finish.
big main event. The big main eventers having a main event. But, bro, don't tell me you can watch that show and not watch some of these matches and go, no one is talking.
Well, I think it was overdone a little bit because they had 3,500, 4,000 people there, whatever it was, and WWE had significantly more than that
Mike,
in Key Bank.
They did, but there have been some shows that have done about 3,500 fans where it sounds like they got 10,000. And you're baffled, and then you look and you go, there was only 3,500. But anyway, let's get to this.
I still think it was overblown a little bit for the action and, frankly, for the type of show that it was.
Jon Moxley and Sammy Guevara, they had a very good match. No one thought Sammy could win, and he didn't. They did a low blow spot behind the referee's back, but nobody bought it. And then Jon Moxley killed him, and he moves on to the finals. This was a very, very good match. We had MJF come to the ring, and he was so over. They're cheering him, and he doesn't want it. Like, the moment he comes out, they're cheering, and so he does the cut my music. They're still cheering. He immediately starts burying him. They cheer even louder. No matter what he does, they cheer. Till he finally calls Jon Moxley a drunk. And then he got some heat. But he had to do a promo where he actually can't say anything. Because you can't go too hard on Moxley. Otherwise, is Moxley winning the tournament? And if he's not, you went so hard and that's not the next title. So anyway, he kind of had to go on Moxley. He kind of had to go on Jericho. He kind of had to go on Bryan Danielson. Given the spot that they're in after the press conference, I thought he did the best he could. And I know some people didn't think it was his greatest promo, but there's only so much you can do when you can't do anything. So overall, I thought he did a hell of a job. And then poor Stokely came out and, man, crickets. And he explains all of his guys, what they all want. Except we still don't know what Morrissey wants. Because he doesn't appear to want to be there.
Yeah, he wants to be paid and left alone. I get this. I completely understand that. In that type of faction, if they are a bunch of rogue guys that are being called together, much like Pulp Fiction, like Reservoir Dogs, all coming from different walks, all coming in just for a paycheck when they're needed by the big boss, there's always going to be somebody on the outside, a little surly, doesn't really like anybody else, really wouldn't be there, but the money's good, and that's what he's there for. And a big hug from Stokely.
Stokes Blokes. I like it. I like it.
He'll be the one who ends up being Cormega of the group.
Jungle Boy and Jay Lethal, quiet crowd again, although as they got to the finish, they got him into the match. Why? Because Jay Lethal is one of the best. He's unbelievable. And Jungle Boy's improved dramatically. Jungle Boy did a counter of a figure four into a snare trap, which I'm still not even sure how he did that, but he did, and it was awesome. And he got the submission. We had Hook and Action Bronson doing a video. And man, you look at this Action Bronson and you're like,
Action. You just said that, didn't you?
He's definitely not built for this business. But
he's built for the business.
But then, the video package they did of this guy hitting stuff, it's like, this man's Action Bronson, all right. This guy, he may not look it, but he gets his hands on you, and you're in deep trouble. Especially if you're Daddy Magic or Angelo Parker.
His Titantron should just be all those times at his shows where he just picks people up in a DVD they get on stage and he throws them off. I mean, there's plenty of that out there. He should add that. And imagine what this entrance is going to be and how long it actually goes for, too. There's a really good possibility that the entrance goes a lot longer than that match.
We had a bunch of video packages. Powerhouse Hobbs beat Matt DiMartino, the best geek jobber you ever saw. And then Starks returned for a brawl, so that's going to continue. Swerve in Our Glory and the Lucha Bros. Dude, this match, I mean, they did a lot of stuff. Well, I don't remember a thing they did, except that spot at the end where Phoenix does a Spanish fly, gets on his knees, Penta springs off his back, gives Keith Lee I'm not joking, dude. This was the greatest Canadian destroyer I ever saw in my life. He bounced off his head like a pogo stick. I have no idea how. I don't know how he's dead. I don't know how he's not hurt. And this building melted down. It was like they were in a smelter. It all just melted down. Golly. And Swerve in Our Glory won. And then the Acclaim came out to cut a promo. And I don't know what's going on. It has to be by design. They're not letting Max Caster rap.
Of course,
And
Brian.
I guess he's going to do his big rap when he comes out next week. But
next week.
he's
Look,
got
to
to.
me, they've done the smartest thing they could do. To have Swerve come out that first week where everybody wanted him to say something about everything that had been going on. Perfect. Especially after the way that tag match went at the pay-per-view where everybody, almost to a person, and all the fans turned on, well, didn't really turn, but backed the Acclaim in that deal. For him to come out to do that again, to me, that's perfect. Cut him off for another week if you have to, but you're doing the match next week. To me, that's perfect. As long as they win, and by that I mean the Acclaimed, it's time to do it now. Do them and the Ass Boys for the tag titles and do whatever you're going to do with Swerve and Keith Lee.
So we had the women who had been put in the first hour a lot. And, they were not the highest rated segment when they were in the first hour, but when they were in the first hour, they did fine. Man, they put him back in the death spot, and it died. Britt Baker and Serena versus Toni Storm and Athena. And I didn't even think about this till yesterday. Vinny brought it up, but now I'm baffled. So Serena pinned Toni.
Yep.
Okay. And then they did a little stuff afterwards with Britt and Jamie Hayter. They're still, Jamie still hates Britt. But I it didn't even occur to me because sometimes my brain fills things in. And so my brain filled in, okay, well, we continued the Britt and Jamie
Hayter
story. And then we had Serena pin Toni to set up a title match. And then it turns out that it's a four-way.
Yeah, I know.
What? So next week, it's Toni, Britt, Athena, and Serena in a four-way for the AEW Women's title. Why?
And I can't believe I'm saying this. Those four in an NXT ring may have been better than those four in an AEW ring. There's talent in there. I just don't know what does not click with these matches. But they don't click. They don't click to the fans. There are individual performances that are good, and I'm not trying to bury them, but, I don't know what needs to give, but something needs to give.
I actually think I know why they did this. I don't agree with it, but I think I know why. But I want to make sure we talk about Jericho and Danielson. Bro, this main event was awesome. If you saw the pay-per-view, it was way better than their pay-per-view match. And they beat the hell out of each other, chops and grappling and wrestling and it was an old school professional wrestling championship tournament match. And Bryan Danielson beat him in the end with the LeBell lock. And then Daniel Garcia backstage nodded. And overall, I thought this was an excellent show from top to bottom. After the break, I'll give you my theory on why it's a four-way. Back in a moment, Observer Live.
Who is Mark's all-time favorite wrestler?
I'm going to say Chris Hero.
Is he correct?
No. I love Chris Hero. Hero. But my favorite of all time is Eddie Guerrero.
Dang, that was the other one I was going to say.
It's funny. I thought this was going to be an easy question, too.
We go. Honestly.
Next one up. What is Mark most obsessed with outside of wrestling?
I'm going to say probably, I think he spends his most time drawing, so I'm going to say drawing and art.
Yeah, that's pretty fair.
That's spot on. All right, there you go. So far, you got 1 point. Awesome.
Hell yeah.
Who is Mark's celebrity crush?
Oh my God. Oh no. Oh no.
I don't even know if this is a topic you and I would have ever discussed.
I don't think so either, eh? I'm trying to think of like WWE divas that you like that you've spoken about, because that's where my brain goes. Tori Wilson.
I mean, I'll say yeah, just to get a free point. But...
And last one, what is Mark's favorite movie?
Euro Trip.
Nah.
What is it?
Dang.
It's The Fifth Element.
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
sure.
All right. You guys are learning about each other just now.
There you go.
Thank you for
yeah.
this. Yeah. Maybe we should.
We need
we
it.
should hit you up for like tag team counseling.
Does Kyle have any pets?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what pets?
He has a
What bets I
golden
got, bro?
retriever, and her name is Bodhi.
Who is Kyle's favorite wrestler? There you go.
Kyle's goat is The Miz.
Right, he's correct. My boy.
Is Kyle an introvert or an extrovert?
He's quite extroverted.
Do you
You'll
agree with
wind him
that?
up.
So I think I can go both ways, but
Mm.
definitely I can be a very extroverted at times for sure.
You can wind him up pretty easy. It's not
It's very easy.
And last one, what is Kyle's favorite thing to eat?
Chicken breast, rice, and broccoli with sriracha. Nah.
No.
Domino's pizza.
No, it was avocado, not broccoli.
Oh, did I say broccoli?
You said broccoli, bro.
I meant
You
avocado.
fucked it.
Damn it!
I love it.
No! We're gonna have to break up.
You
now
ruined it.
after this.
Yeah, sorry.
That's poor
Look at you,
effort. How
banging
many
it.
points
The
was that,
end.
Adam?
All right, I got to sprint like Excalibur here. First off, as first heard by my super followers on Twitter, yes, tomorrow, WWE has a press conference in Las Vegas, which is going to announce the main event of the Saudi pay-per-view, which is probably going to be Logan Paul and Roman Reigns. But we shall see. But that is taking place tomorrow. And my theory on why this match is a four-way next week, when it should be a singles if you look at the booking. I don't know if this is why, but this is my theory, okay? I'm not saying it's because of me, because a lot of people said this, but self-fulfilling prophecy. You always put the women in the death spot. People get the idea that they're not worth watching, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy they're never going to draw. You've got to try to put them elsewhere. It may take a hit, but you got to position them as a big deal, and eventually then people will see them as a big deal, okay? So, beginning in August, the women started appearing in the first hour. And what were the matches? August 3rd, Britt and Jamie versus Thunder and Tony. August 31st, Sheeta and Tony versus Britt and Jamie. And then there was, I think there was another one. The point of this is, they moved the women earlier in the show, and they did all right. And all of those matches I read were multi-person women matches. They weren't singles matches. Tag match, tag match, tag match. So my theory is that he believes, okay, well, you know, we're going to take the biggest stars that we have in the women's division, and we're going to position them in a better place, and we'll see if they can draw or whatever. So that's why I believe that next week, once again, it's 4 of the biggest women's stars that they're going to try to position in a prominent place on the Arthur Ashe show, as opposed to just doing a one-on-one match. That's my theory. With that said, it should have been a singles match. Right?
Yeah,
She pinned the champion.
it is true.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, top tiers. Thanks, super followers. We'll talk to you next time. Wrestling Observer Live.